This three-bean casserole is dumb.
Scooby-Doo-bop-biddy-bop-bop-bop. I'm so sorry, babe. I hadn't tasted him yet,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Looking forward to, you know, like,
Don't talk about the ingredients. I know. Yeah.
After it's just a surprise for your mouth.
yeah.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's time for another comic book review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Shadowman #1 from Cullen Bunn and Jon Davis-Hunt from Valiant Comics. I do not review a lot of Valiant Comics here on the channel anymore. Longtime viewers of the channel know that I used to be an enormous Valiant supporter, huge fan. They have fallen on tough times, especially creatively, but they finally made a comic book that I'm actually going to recommend. You might find that surprising. This is a solid 3, closing in on a 3.5 star comic. You know, I'll recommend it. There's some issues with the art. That's probably the biggest issue with the comic. There's some stuff with the writing too. I'll get into that. But if you're familiar with Shadowman, you will like this comic more than likely. And this is the best showing that Valiant's had as far as a debut in quite some time. Now, some people may take issue and say, well, but what about Rye and Fallen World from Dan Abnett with the character Rye? Those are solid comic books. If you're not familiar with the Rye character, that's my favorite, like my second favorite character in all of comics. That's my favorite story in the history of the comics is Matt Kent, Clayton Crane's Rye series. And while Dan Abnett is good, it's not exactly the same character. He kind of throws a lot of stuff out that had been built up, and I did not appreciate that. So I did not actually like that series. But if you were not familiar with the character, that was actually quite well done. Getting into Shadowman #1, some of you may be asking, was Heather Rontos associated with this comic book? I have been quite critical of her performance in the past. Yes, she was. She is the editor on this comic. So congratulations to Heather Rontos. You are associated with the comic book I'm actually recommending here on my channel, and a job well done. Cullen Bunn is not a good superhero writer, in my opinion. And that's just my opinion, but he is a good horror writer. So here we have a horror-based superhero, and it kind of falls right into Cullen Bunn's wheelhouse, and he actually executes it pretty well. The art is definitely the most disappointing thing. I guess we should get into this review and start talking about the art by Jon Davis-Hunt. This image is my favorite piece of art in here, and it's specifically this top part with Baron Samity's face. I think it's grotesque. It's well executed. Good use of negative space. Nice shadowing. You know, kind of makes the character look foreboding. Otherwise, I don't find a lot in this that is overwhelmingly great. It's certainly not terrible. There are some issues as far as the inking. There's not a lot of depth created in the images. The monster creations in here are wholly unoriginal and seemingly uninspired. I'm not certain how much time he had. This was announced a long time before it was released, so I imagine he did have ample time, but this is not the best work I've seen from this artist. And the color artist, actually, Jordi Belair, who I think is one of the better color artists in comics, kind of drops the ball on this one. Specifically this character, this isn't the main character. This is Baron Samedi. He's kind of the main antagonist for Shadowman. He's a very charismatic, bright character despite what he looks like. And everything is so muted about the character. And it's not just in the coloring or the way that the character's drawn. It's within the writing too. And it really does not accentuate who this character actually is. The art plays a big part in that as well as the writing. So I was disappointed in the art. It's not bad by any means, but it's certainly not what I would have expected with this artist on a character like this. And I do feel like it was, for the most part, a miss. Now, getting into the story, I think that Cullen Bunn and his editor, Heather Rontos, might have missed the mark on this one. There is an enormous assumption that you know who Shadowman is, the history of the character, what powers him, what his motivations are, because they barely tell you who he is. This is the #1 issue. This is a debut. This is an introduction of the character to readers. At least that's what a #1 should be. At the beginning, he is fighting this blight that is crossed over from Deadside. If you don't know what Deadside is, that is what Shadowman is here to protect the world from. He is powered by a voodoo Loa spirit, and that is how he becomes Shadowman. Normally, he's just a regular jazz musician named Jack Boniface, and when he becomes Shadowman, he can cross into Deadside, and this blight has actually crossed over, which isn't supposed to happen, and it is murdering a bunch of people, and he talks about how he's protecting the Earth from Deadside. And that's about it. He doesn't really go into any explanations about the Loa, how they're connected, what the Loa's powers are, why are they working together. There's also an enormous network behind Shadowman, mortals in New Orleans that are specifically assisting him in his mission. There's no talk of that whatsoever. So you know what Shadowman is, and generically speaking, you know what he does. And that's about it. And I think that was a missed opportunity, like I said, because this is a number one. We get into the story. He's fighting this blight. This monster is killing a bunch of masqueraders that are in New Orleans. Shadowman has been hunting them down for about a week. And then we get this strange reveal. This monster is actually looking for somebody. Something else has crossed over from Deadside, and he's like, she's not ready to see the horrors of this world. So we get the juxtaposition that the monsters from Deadside come over to the earth, and they're just shocked and appalled at how horrific and disgusting this world is. Not the most original thing in the history of the world, but that is essentially an introduction to the character. And then we get introduced to normally the main antagonist of Shadowman. In this case, if you've never read the character, you would think that Baron Samedi was part of the network that's assisting Jack Boniface to clear out these monsters and keep the Deadside out of our realm. And not that, I mean, that's not who he is. He's a very charismatic, very devious character that can travel between Deadside and Earth. Kind of like Boniface. He's a very powerful spirit. Is he the most powerful spirit in Deadside? I don't think so, but he's very high up there. Shadowman does mention, keep your friends closer, your enemies closer type of thing, to let you know that these aren't buddies, but I don't think the characterization of the relationship is very good. Baron Samedi is kind of letting him know, hey, listen, something has crossed over. It's in a house. They're having a party tonight, and you need to go there. And when they get to the party, Baron Samedi's like, I ain't going. And you can tell this is definitely setting up for a big turn. He's scared of this house. There's something in there that has crossed over that he doesn't want to deal with on this side. So he's going to use Shadowman to take care of it, likely at his own detriment. And then we'll find out that Baron Samedi was the bad guy the whole time. But he's clearly established as being that character. I don't think it was a great introduction, but we do have this big plantation house in New Orleans. Of course, it's going to be some very rich old white people at the core of the issue here. And we see almost immediately they are involved with the occult. If you have not read Shadowman, you are going to see a lot of the occult. You're going to see a lot of voodoo practitioners, things of that nature. So they're taking this blood and they're pouring it on themselves, and they're doing some type of ritual as Jack Boniface has shed his Shadowman Loa. And we definitely see that he is more than capable on his own. He doesn't need the Shadowman Loa, especially when he's handling just regular people. Here he works over 3 apparently quite inept security guards at this plantation house as he goes in to investigate what exactly Baron Samedi has sent him over here for. We do know that there is a monster that is over here that Blight was trying to save and bring back to Deadside, because this world is too cruel for that monster. And then we start getting an explanation of what's going on. Like I said, the colors in here are just bad. It does not accentuate the story. It's very dull to look at, and especially in this scene, it turns out that these people are covering themselves in demon blood. They're looking into a mirror. A mirror is the way to travel between Deadside and our realm, and they're trying to, how would I explain it? They're trying to camouflage themselves as demons so they can travel through. It turns out this was a terrible idea to go into Deadside in this manner. As soon as they go over there, the Deadside recognizes what they are, because somebody on Deadside realizes this is an opportunity for me to go to that world. And he infects this person, I guess, with all these monster locusts. I don't know what they are. There's some type of bug. He's thrown back through the mirror, back to our realm. He bursts, and you got all these bugs that are just trying to eat everybody. Shadowman jumps into action. He realizes he better kill all these before they get out, and they start destroying the entire world. In the end, as you would expect, Shadowman takes care of business. The older woman, they've mentioned what her name is. It's an unmemorable character as far as this story goes, is dead. She's laying on top of this thing, and we find out what it was exactly the Blight was talking about. We've got this monster that's crying that says, they summoned me, shackled me, harvested my blood for their games, but you have come to rescue me. When we were called, we thought we were blessed, thought this world would live up to the stories that would almost be heavenly. But that is a lie, an illusion. This world is much worse than the dead side. It's haunted, it's reaffirming what we had already seen from the Blight. And they were taking the blood out of this monster and trying to use it to cross between worlds. But something else has come over. We see this apparition of this woman. We do not know who this character is. I wonder if it's somebody from Shadowman's past. Shadowman is passed down by lineage. So Jack Boniface's father would have been Shadowman. His grandfather would have been Shadowman. I believe it goes all the way back to the Civil War. So this character could be from the history of the Boniface family, or it could be from the history of like New Orleans, which does have a tradition of dabbling in the dark arts. And finally, we get this last interaction between Shadowman and Baron Samedi, where he's basically, you can say he's been manipulated. He's done his work, and it's probably not going to turn out well for him. You know, I forgot to mention this earlier about the art. For some reason, Jon Davis-Hunt decided to make Shadowman's hair like, I don't know, steam or something. What is it? It's just this like floaty hair instead of real hair. I think this was, I get what he was doing, and on paper it probably sounded like a good idea, but I think in execution it falls very short. It doesn't add to the character and actually kind of makes him look more silly, less serious in nature, in my opinion. So I don't think that was a good addition to the character design. I meant to add that to the art part, but I just now remembered I didn't say anything about it. So this is a good piece of sequential storytelling in the fact that you get the introduction, you get the conflict, and you get a resolution all within one episode before you go on and continue the overarching story. You don't actually get this a lot in comic books, even in miniseries and ongoings. It's actually a bit shocking if you look at it, some of the craft, the story craft that's been lost as far as comic books. But this is essentially what a comic book should read like. Even if it's part of an ongoing story, which this clearly is, you can come in and read this and you've read a story. So kudos on Cullen Bunn for actually executing a real story in one issue of a comic book. We don't see that enough. That is essentially my comic book review for Shadowman. I'm giving it a 3-star. If the art was better, because I don't feel like this is Jon Davis-Hunt's best effort. If the coloring was better, this would be bumped up to a 3.5. Closing it on a 4-star, maybe like a highly recommend. You know, this is solid stuff. This is definitely the best debut comic book Valiant has had in some time. I'm actually quite impressed. Now, back in the day, just 3 or 4 years ago, this would be very average or even substandard in comparison to the rest of the line. But here and now, this is the creme de la creme. This is the best debut they had in some time. I'm not surprised, like I mentioned earlier, Cullen Bunn is a good horror comic writer. Here we have a core-based superhero comic. I do think there were missed opportunities to introduce new readers to who the character is and kind of what makes him beat, what the Loa itself is. Not a lot of explanation for any of that. And I do think the characterization on Baron Samedi was a little bit off. Well, maybe a little more than a little bit. It wasn't a real good portrayal of the character, but the story itself, solid enough, worth a read. And I will see you all in a few hours, hopefully live on the Comics Aficionados. If you're watching this after the live stream, definitely go back and check it out if you haven't already. We're going to have a good time today. And there should be a review later today of X-Men Legends #3 from the Simonsons with Doc. And that should be fun because I quite enjoyed that issue. And there will be a comic book roast on Monday, likely to be Teen Titans Academy #2. But I still need to talk to Pele because there might be something out there that's even worse that I just don't know about. Thank you all very much, and I'll talk to you later. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.